Hello ladies! Thank you for joining me today. My name is Mandy and thank you so much for visiting my YouTube channel. Today we're going to work on our child's pose. Beginning, we'll start with just our hands and knees in a tabletop position, and you won't need any props. You don't even technically need your mat to work this pose. A cushy surface might be nice if you happen to have maybe a carpet or a rug that you can practice on just for some extra cushion. And from here, just from our table pose, we'll just simply take our hips down towards our heels, and then we'll bring our forehead just about right smack in the middle of your forehead down to your mat. And I know what you're thinking. Whoa, Mandy, this is not working for me. I have a baby here and I'm addressing that. I'm going to address different layers and different ways that we can kind of practice this pose depending on which trimester you're in. So this was kind of the first one we did, kind of first trimester maybe into your second, and it's different for everyone. So don't just assume since you're in second trimester that that's the one for you. Here's another option. Take your knees kind of towards the outside edges of your mat, or just a good healthy distance apart, not to where you feel like you're doing the splits. And then we'll start to walk our fingertips forward, and again we're going to bring our forehead down right in that center point down to our mat. And you may be saying, Mandy, that was better, but this still isn't quite working for me. There's still even more options we can do. So if that one still wasn't quite working for you, sometimes just the folding forward kind of gives us this feeling that we can't breathe. So sometimes it's our breasts that are getting in the way of our breathing just because we're folding forward. Sometimes it's just that we feel so compressed. So bring your knees further in if that's you, and bring yourself back to that table position that we started with. So this one, instead of just trying to shift your hips all the way down to your heels, and maybe your hips just don't make it down all the way to your heels today, that's okay. You can just kind of walk your hands a little bit forward. You're going to bring your forehead down a little bit higher so that we're going to keep a more of a straight spine. And we'll draw our belly muscles in. So you're going to kind of draw belly muscles in a little bit. That's just going to help lengthen our spine. So draw belly muscles towards baby, and then we'll slowly bring forehead down. So any of these options that you choose for you today, remember that these are little bitty hip openers, so you can easily, and I'm up, but I would prefer you to stay down. It's easy just to kind of shift your hips gently side to side if that feels good for you. And sometimes just a little bit of movement in our pose feels really good. And so just taking your hips gently side to side in any of those variations. So maybe if you were here with your hips all the way down towards your heels, with your knees just the hip distance apart, or even if your knees are wider, you can still kind of lean, shift your torso side to side. And then let's all find some stillness. And just breathe here. Really let the weight of your body be here on your mat, so that every exhale, you're letting go of the weight of your body, letting it be on your mat, no longer supporting yourself. And that is where the true stretch comes. That's where the lengthening happens. And just breathe here. And every exhale takes you deeper, a little more relaxed, a little more heavy.
Just like every exhale, you're letting go of something. Could be emotional, could be physical, and just letting go. So slowly start to make your way up from your pose. And I find that sometimes when we practice these poses with our heads down for long periods of time, it can kind of make you feel a little different when you first come up. So take a moment. Sometimes if you end up spending a lot of time in the pose, just take a moment, kind of sit up for a moment before you go standing and moving, just to kind of let yourself get used to being upright again. So anytime we have our head lower than our hips, it kind of changes the blood flow. So we want to make sure that we take our time to come back up. And just for this practice, for this pose, you can practice this anytime. It's a really good pose to do after any really other pose. That you can use it as a counter pose, we call it. And it's exceptionally good for those days that you're maybe feeling heavy and you need to kind of unload a little. And I encourage this practice or this pose whenever you feel you need it in your day. And thank you so much for joining me. I always enjoy it. And again, my name is Mandy, and this is My Mandy Yoga, and this was our Child's Pose of the week. Thank you so much for joining me. Thank you.